not, about 1/4 of the entire world's carbon dioxide emissions are sucked into the Earth's oceans. Have you ever stopped to think what all that carbon dioxide being absorbed does to the life underneath the water's surface? Research shows that although in some cases having the water absorb the carbon dioxide is better than having it in the atmosphere, it greatly affects the delicate balance of marine life. Global warming is something that everybody knows about because it's often talked about in the news, but not very many people have ever heard of ocean acidification, what it is, and what it does. Ocean acidification refers to the process of lowering the ocean's pH levels to those which are unsuitable to some forms of marine life. The lowering takes place by dissolving additional carbon dioxide into the seawater from the atmosphere. Since the start of the Industrial Revolution in roughly 1750, the world has burned enough fossil fuels and cut down enough forests to emit more than 500 billion tons of carbon dioxide. That's almost the equivalent of 17 blue whales, which are the largest mammal to ever live. That much absorption has led to a 30% increase in the ocean's acidity over the last 250 years. If the emissions continue at their current rate, the acidity of the ocean will be more than doubled by the year 2100. In 1990, a 15-year research project was done involving collecting over 77,000 samples of seawater from different depths and locations around the world. The research was conclusive in that it said that the ocean had sucked in more than 1/4 of carbon dioxide released by humans, and they continue to absorb roughly 1 million tons of CO2 every hour. Global warming is something that everyone knows about, but ocean acidity is often referred to as global warming's evil twin. So how is it affecting the coral reefs, a lot of people ask. There's a number of different ways, and the answer isn't as easy as you may think. As if you were to pour acid on human skin, the acidity in the ocean affects the production of the coral's exoskeleton. To make their exoskeleton, which is made up of calcium carbonate, coral needs calcium ions and carbonate ions, which are both naturally found in seawater. However, as the pH lowers, the number of calcium ions and carbonate ions decreases, making it a lot harder for the coral to form their shell. Much like osteoporosis, it slows the growth and makes the shells increasingly weaker. It also hinders the ability of the corals to reproduce. The lower pH levels leads to a decline in fertilization, settlement, and larval development. Without these steps, new coral colonies will never be created, and the coral will slowly get extinct. Something like 25% of all the species in the ocean spend at least part of their life in the coral reef system. So if all the corals were to disappear, all the life that spends time there would have nowhere to go and keep shelter. The disappearance and extinction of all coral reefs would be like the underwater equivalent for every rainforest in the entire world being completely wiped out. Millions of species depend on the coral reefs to feed, reproduce, shelter their larvae, and take refuge from predators. Without them, they'll have nowhere to go. The slow-moving and steady elimination of coral reefs is not a joke, because humans also depend on coral reefs as well. Having the humans not pay attention to the amount of CO2 they're putting in the air will not only affect the delicate balance of the marine ecosystem, but it will also affect the economy and the way that humans live. Having rid of all coral reefs in the world, the life that surrounds them will have to find somewhere else to live, which will also create a lack of food for humans. It is estimated that with the disappearance of the coral reefs, 500 million people who depend on coral-dwelling species for food and income will be in jeopardy. The food web will be completely disrupted, as well as the seafood that we all enjoy to eat will not be readily available. The human food supply, tourism, and other ocean-related activities that rely on the sea will be severely cut back. The economy will also be affected because if you think about it, a highly acidic ocean barren of beautiful sea life will not be a hotspot for tourism anymore, so coastal communities and other people who depend on the tourism for income will be affected. Coastal communities will also take a loss because the reefs provide a degree of protection against violent storms and hurricanes. Without a reef offshore, coastal communities could definitely take a harder hit from the weather because they won't be there for the protection. Cold water coral sponges and their associated ecosystems have also been recognized as an important source of new medical treatments for diseases such as cancer, arthritis, Alzheimer's, and different types of skin disease. If the corals were to disappear, Any medical advances that could have ever been made by these corals will no longer be able to happen. Ocean acidification doesn't get the attention that it needs. More people need to pay attention to the amount of CO2 that they're putting in the air, or everyone is going to suffer. The natural processes that the ocean can go through to reverse the effects of ocean acidification will take much too long to affect any type of significant portion of ocean water. It's just too slow for a human timescale. It would take tens of thousands of years. What we really need to do is pass laws that would stop destructive fishing and also create marine protected areas, much like national parks, that will be a place where the underwater life can't be disturbed. If something isn't done about the effects of ocean acidification, there will be great consequences that humans really won't be able to deal with. Something must be done.